Hey guys, welcome back to Gardening Young. Today I thought it would be fun to go over and teach you guys a little bit about and show you guys what I do whenever I'm planning my garden out. Now, I don't have a huge garden, as you guys have seen. I have three 8x4s and three 8x4 beds, one by 3x3, and then I have like literally like a raised bed. It's not like, you know, a raised bed on the ground. It's like raised on stilts. I don't really know how to explain it, but I have one of those beds. And I don't know the dimensions of that bed. So I do have a good amount of space, but if you compare me to other like big huge gardens, I do not have a big garden. But I do start mostly all of my seeds and plants that I use for myself, and as well as starting seeds for myself, I also start seeds for other people. Like I start seeds for some family members and friends that I have that don't quite have the seed starting set up. And they asked me to do it. So I am going to be starting, I don't sell any plant starts, but I do it for other people. So yeah, so I'm going to be doing that. So I do have a good amount of planning that I have to do before the season starts, because the other thing too is, like, if I don't have a plan, it's really easy for me to like get into like later in the winter and then not be starting it on time. I just want to make sure I'm on top of things. And the other thing about having a plan is it keeps you, you know, it just helps you know when to start stuff and also where everything's gonna go. Just to have a game plan, it makes it a lot easier so that you don't have to scramble to get everything planted whenever it's past time that things are supposed to be started and you don't know what to do. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. Okay, so one of the things I do is I draw my garden out. For me, this just kind of gives me a visualization of what planting space I have and where I want to maximize my growing space. The other thing too is, honestly, I don't have a big garden. I have a kind of a small backyard garden. So the thing is that I also have a big family, so I really want to maximize my space. And try to put things where I can put or where they can go, and try to grow as much as possible, because that is my goal, is to actually provide my family with fresh vegetables that we can actually use. Last year I did get to do that, but not as much as I want to. So I'm trying to up my game again this year and learn from the other things, that the mistakes that I made last year, and all those things. So having a plan is really good. One of the things that I have is I have a notebook, and then I have a binder, and I'll show you what I have in my binder and what I have in my notebook. But these two things just help me plan. The thing that I use my binder for primarily is a calendar. You can get like a planner if you wanted to and use that to do it. I just didn't have a planner on hand, and so I made a calendar, and you'll see that in a minute. But anyway, let's get back to the diagram part. I've drawn my garden out. I drew it out last year because last year was the first summer that I didn't have a container garden. So I've been gardening for 4 years now, but the first 2 years, I'm coming up on my 4th year. So this will be my 4th season. But the first 2 years I did container gardening. So last year I did in-ground gardening, and the fall of my 2nd year I did raised bed gardening. And then last year I did an in-ground garden, and this year I'm going to be upping my game with raised beds and an in-ground gardening. So it is just expanding as the seasons go on, and so that just calls for me to have more of a plan so that I can maximize all the space and accomplish all my goals. So What I do is I just lay out my garden beds, and then I just put like the dimensions. So this is 8 by 4, 8 by 4. I have an 8 by, what did I say that was? I said this is an 8 by 3. I don't know if it's an 8 by 3 or an 8 by 4. It's one of those, you know? And then I put my 3 by 3 and my raised bed. We'll just call it the raised bed, okay? You guys will see it eventually whenever we get outside. But, so that's what I do first. And then after I draw out all my things, I start kind of thinking, okay, where's the best spot for this? So, I'll show you this. So this one is kind of near my tree line of my garden. So this raised bed gets more sun or gets more shade than this one does. So whenever I'm planting, I have to think about those things. More raised beds get more sunlight, or more beds, garden beds get more sunlight than others because some parts are shaded more. So that's some of the things that I think about whenever I'm planting. So for example, this one gets more sun, this one gets more sun than this one. So this one I'm gonna plant all my tomatoes in because tomatoes need full sun for at least 6 to 8 hours a day. And so I need to make sure that I put that in a full sun bed. I'm also putting another row of tomatoes in my other full sun bed, which is my raised long bed. My raised bed that's long, and then my in-ground garden. So that's one of the things that I have to think about is that has more sun than the other bed does, and so I can't plant tomatoes in that spot. But the thing that I can plant in the little bit shadier spot are bush beans. So I am going to be putting bush beans in that garden spot because right now, currently, in my in-ground bed that gets shade, it doesn't get shade throughout the whole day, just a little bit more shade than the other one does. So the bush beans can take a little bit of shade. I've learned that they can take a little bit more shade. They're a little bit more tolerant of shade than tomatoes are. So I'm gonna put my bush beans in that bed. The other thing is that my trellis that is currently there is not gonna be there anymore. So it's gonna be in the raised bed garden. It's gonna be in that. It's my trellis that's currently in the in-ground garden is gonna be in my big raised bed garden. So that's one of the things that I have to think about is I'm going to be moving that trellis, so then that space is going to be empty that has a trellis right now. So I'm going to do bush beans in that space. And then I just kind of do what's going to be in the middle or what's going to be the main thing in that bed, and then I kind of fill around it. That's how I plan out my beds, because I like to do a lot of companion planting. That's one of the big things that I do just to maximize my space. So with the tomatoes, I'll put a bunch of herbs because I like to put herbs with my tomatoes. So I'm gonna do basil and parsley, and then I'm gonna plant a bunch of flowers with the tomatoes. So the tomatoes are gonna be down the middle, and then I'm just gonna kind of tuck in different like flowers and herbs and different things around it. Now the other thing too is that this isn't set in stone. Like once I make this plan, it's not set in stone. I'm not going to do this and only this. Because the thing is that sometimes when I get out there planting, I underestimated or overestimated, you know, what I could put in that space. Usually I overestimate, so like, I don't know that I'll be able to fit a bunch of flowers in the tomato bed that I'm doing. You know, maybe I'll only fit herbs. It just kind of depends on how it goes. But the other thing that does help is that I grow my tomatoes vertically. And you guys will see that this season. So the thing about that is that it does give me some space to put things around it and put things, but I have to make sure that I don't fit in too much, because if I do, it takes away the nutrition from the nutrients from everything else growing in the bed. So there's all these different components that go into it. Okay, so then you have, you know, the arch trellises, and I have to figure out what I'm gonna put on my arch trellises. Now, I want to get another arch trellis. I use cattle panel trellises as my trellises. I use cattle panel fencing as my trellises. They're super sturdy, and I just put a few T-posts in the ground, and then I put a cattle panel trellis in, and that's how, and zip tie it to, and zip tie the cattle panel to the T-post, and that works great. It's super sturdy and it lasts for several years. So that's what I use, just because it's super sturdy, and just because I'm on a hill, lots of trees, different things. We do get wind. It makes sure that it's super sturdy and nothing's gonna fall over. And then I also, we have things dropping from the sky. So, if you have an unsturdy trellis, things are gonna fall down. So not dropping from the sky. I mean dropping from the trees, So you have to have a sturdy trellis where I live. And so that's what I use, and I want to get another cattle panel for another arch trellis between the square raised bed and my big long raised bed. I already have one trellis in between my in-ground gardens, and I want to move it down, but I am trying to, I'm moving it because then the main thing why I'm moving things is because of sunlight. So last year was the first year I was growing in the spot I was growing in, because I've had my container gardens were in two different spaces, and then my raised bed garden was in another space. So last year was the first time growing in that area, so I didn't know where the sunlight was and things like that. So I have to move some trellises according to where the sunlight has been, and me being able to observe. One of the things that I want to mention is that with gardening and things, one of the most important things is to observe, because observing is ways that you learn, and it's ways to help you say, okay, there's not as much sunlight here, there's a little bit shade, so I need to be putting shade tolerant plants in this area, or there's more sun, so I can put my more direct sunlight vegetables in this area, and all these things, and observing, just to see what your garden's needs are, what kind of areas you're dealing with, and all those different factors. So whenever you're growing your first year, or you're growing in a new space, make sure you're observing so that you can take notes, like where there's more sun and where there's more shade, or where the water flows to, and things like that. So yeah. Okay, so the next thing that I have to take into consideration is what I'm gonna plant for the spring. And so the thing that I have to make sure I'm keeping in mind is that my summer crops are going to be coming right in on the spring crops. So if I am going to be doing any spring crops, I have to make sure that it's going to be something that I can take out, or it's done whenever my summer crop goes in. So one of the things that I think I'm probably gonna do is just designate a bed to spring crops, and then I'm gonna do my porch with spring crops, and use that as my spring load, and then it won't mess with any of my summer stuff, and I can just go in and plant my summer stuff when it needs to be planted, and then when my spring stuff finishes out, I can take it out and fill in something with like cucumbers, or something that is a very quick grower, and I still have time whenever those spring crops come out, because a lot of spring crops can go even until May before they bolt. So I'm just gonna let it go as long as it can, and then whenever I need to pull it out, I'll fill it back in with the summer crop. And so that's one of the reasons that I can't put it where I'm gonna put all my like tomatoes and things like that, because they're gonna be going in right after my frost, which is April 5th. So it'll be right when the spring crops are doing good. And so I have to kind of keep that in mind, is where are my spring crops gonna go, so that I can then fill my summer crops in. One other thing that I wanted to mention about about, you know, drawing your garden out. One of the benefits to it, and one of the reasons I do it too, is it kind of helps me take in an inventory of how many seeds I need to be starting and what I need to be starting. Because I'm starting so many seeds that I have to have a plan of what I'm going to be starting. So that's one of the reasons that I also draw out my garden and see what I'm going to be growing where, is because I need to have kind of a game plan on what I'm going to be starting and when. And so that's where my binder comes into play. So I created a calendar because I didn't have like a planner or any calendar that I could use to plan it. So one of the things that you can use is you can go get a calendar or not a calendar, you can't get a calendar, but one of the things that you can get is a planner. I used that last year and it was a great option, but I don't have a 2022 calendar, so I just made a DIY one. So here's my DIY calendar. I have January through May. Wait. Let me double check that. It might be January through April. Hold on. Yeah, I have January through May, just because those are the prime growing seasons where I am focusing in on all the getting stuff into the garden. So yes, I have it all the way January to May of 2022, and this is where I kind of write down, this is 12 weeks from my last frost date. This is 8 weeks from my last frost date. This is 4 weeks from my last frost date. And that kind of helps me plan out when I'm going to be starting all my seeds. So I actually found this little chart of when I'm going to be starting all my seeds. It is not my chart. I just found it online. But the other thing, there's multiple different places that you can find of when you need to be starting your seeds. I know in Jessica Soward's Growing Gardeners book, she has a seed sowing instruction that tells you the plant and when do you need to start it, if you need to start it indoors or outdoors. I really like her plan. I have used hers, but there's some things that I'm growing, like different flowers and things, that I needed to know, so I went ahead and got this plan. So I am going by hers and her guide and this guide. I just found a PDF online, so you guys can go do that too. Because, you know, a lot of online sources are really great. Anyway, my guide kind of has different, like, blocks and, like, it says, the weeks, like, what weeks, so, like, 10 to 12 weeks you need to start this. And so I, like, color-coded it, and then I went on my calendar, and keep in mind when I'm saying this, I am very extra, just saying, and I'm totally a planner, so I like to really stay on top of things. If this is not your thing, don't feel like you need to do this. This is just how I do it, and this is just, I'm sharing that with you, and this is what works for me. I want you to find what works for you. So if what works for you is just writing down when you need to, plant each thing, then that's great. But this is just me being extra and doing things that don't necessarily need to be done, but it just kind of helps me because I'm a very visual person, so to see all the different colors just helps me. So I have all the different colors, so I can look at the day, and then it has like the colors. And so then I see the color, and then I can just go back to my chart and see which color it is, and they'd be like, oh, I need to start these today. So that's just kind of how I do it. I just kind of color code. So I have the colors on my calendar on each day, and then I just go back to all of my chart and see where the color is and what things I need to plant and when. So yeah, that's how I keep track of when I need to be starting my seeds. So I know that was a lot of information, But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that it helps you if you guys are a first-time gardener and you guys are just dabbling into starting seeds. I hope this helped you a little bit. I know it was a lot of information, but again, I want to mention that this is what works for me. If something else works for you, find that and do that. It's really just experimenting and trying different things to see what works, you know, again, what works for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and this helped you whenever you're seed starting, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.